First, this episode is the second Sonic game I recorded for the show, but third getting a video thanks to me doing Sonic Drift back in episode 8. It's Sonic the Hedgehog Chaos. Since I'd done Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Land in those original batch of 2018 recordings, I also wanted a handheld Sonic game to pair with the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I know I said handheld and yet this is the Master System version, but bear with me. I didn't want to just do the 8-bit Sonic 1 because having the second Sonic game I do be another version of one I've already done would be boring, and 8-bit Sonic 2 is really hard, so I went down the list and chose this one. There's also the fact that this came already downloaded on the Wii I was using when I bought it second hand in 2010 when my original 2006 Wii died, so it was an easy game to record. As said, this is the Master System version. I could have gone with the Game Gear version on the millions of collections I have it on, but the Master System version gives me much more screen space so it's less of a pain to play. Very simple story. Dr. Eggman has stolen the Red Chaos Emerald, interrupting the balance of power with the other 5 and scarring them. And without the power of the emeralds, South Island, the setting of Sonic 1, is going to sink into the ocean. So Sonic and Tails have to deal with it. Side note, we're back to 6 Chaos Emeralds again after Sonic 2 bumped it up to 7. The 8-bit games were always inconsistent with how many Chaos Emeralds there are anyway. I can choose to be either Sonic or Tails, hence the game's Japanese title, Sonic and Tails. This is also Tails' first playable appearance in an 8-bit platformer after being demoted to kidnap victim in the 8-bit Sonic 2. I'll start with Sonic and alternate between them each zone, starting with Turquoise Hill Zone Act 1. To be honest, that level name always sounded like it would be from a Sonic parody of an actual game, mocking the various green or green adjacent hills we've already had. There isn't even any turquoise in it. Visually, this zone is very similar to Emerald Hill Zone, just without the background. Sonic plays as you'd expect Sonic to play. This is the first 8-bit game that allows him to use a spin dash though, and even has a super peel out from Sonic CD by holding up and pressing jump. You'll notice I'm taking it slow here and collecting every ring I can. After taking a moving platform by the start up a little and to the left, we find one of this game's new power-ups, the Rocket Shoes. It has Sonic flying through the air in a straight line. As you can see here, it doesn't last very long, and turning is slow so it doesn't take me far. Dropping down we have a Boingo Bot, a motor bug with a spring on top. Following some jumping across more platforms, I reach some more rocket shoes and fly right along a line of rings before getting knocked out of the sky by a Beaton. They're like buzz bombers but without the ability to shoot me. Luckily, being hit on the rocket shoes doesn't take my rings. It also drops me right by 2 more long lines of rings, getting me up to 92. I backtrack along the parts I skipped while I was in the air and get the last 8. Getting 100 rings of Sonic automatically finishes the act and puts you in a special stage. This one starts me above the monitor with some rocket shoes and has me flying about collecting rings. After collecting them all, I keep going and grab some big rings worth 10 each. It gives me a couple lives, but I run out of time, not noticing I even have a timer, and fail to grab the Chaos Emerald, so I reset the game. This time I just run through the level normally. It's just a couple jumps on a loop followed by one of those Emerald Hill twisty tube things. At the end is a signpost that tells you the speed you hit it at. What is worrying is the victory screen simply saying, Sonic has passed. Now for Act 2. Right at the start we have the speed up power up, and unlike most Sonic games the music isn't sped up. For the most part I just keep holding right and a series of well placed springs gets me over the level. My run is ruined when it slams me right into a loop. In front of it is a spring and above the loop is a pair of rocket shoes that take me straight to the end. Act 3. Down a slope and take 3 springs to reach the first boss. Rather than Eggman every zone, it's a different robot. The first is a pushover. It's a giant Boingo Bot very creatively named Ladybug in the English localizations. In Japan, it's Great Bane Motora Gold, Bane Motora being the Japanese name for the Boingo Bot. I'm only talking about the name because there's nothing else to this boss. I spin dash it 8 times when it's done. Sonic runs off the screen all sparkly and this level is over. Turquoise Hill is okay, it's just not very memorable and it's over before you even have the chance to think about it. Gigalopolis Zone is next, or just Gigapolis if you're on Game Gear. And here I'll switch to my Tails playthrough. The biggest difference between Tails and Sonic in this game is that Tails has no special stages, he just gains an extra life when reaching 100 rings. A new enemy in this zone is the Metalo Turtle, that function identically to Motobugs, just moving around with no other attack. This zone is already bigger than the first, with more branching paths, more loops and tube things to run through, along with spike beds I can't help but jump into. This is the first game where playable Tails can fly, and it isn't very good so I don't often use it. You have to hold up and press jump and the flight is very slow and doesn't last long either. This zone is more visually interesting than Turquoise Hill 2, the starry night sky in the background giving off a Starlight Zone vibe. It's not long before I reach the end. Act 2 sends me through a pair of loops and up a series of springs, bounce across a gap, through a tube, across a bridge, get hit and there's a signpost already in the quick 34 seconds. I mean, these games were designed with the Game Gear's battery life in mind. I even get Sonic's picture on the signpost instead of the usual flicker for being so fast. Act 3 only lasts 10 seconds before I reach the boss. A loop, some springs and a tube before I meet the dangerous ball tower. People new to this game may recognise the boss because a souped up version will later be a boss in Sonic Mania. I just have to hit it on the head while it flings its segments at me, sometimes bouncing along the screen, other times straight along the floor. Once it reaches just the head, it grows 3 more segments. It's more of a threat than the first boss, but still not too hard. It does manage to get 2 hits in before I take it down though. Through points, Tails has built up an insane amount of continues in just 2 zones. Back to Sonic for Sleeping Egg Zone Act 1, which the manual says is a floating island in the sky, and it doesn't need a magic rock to stay afloat. Get fucked, Angel Island. This zone's gimmick is breakable blocks through the method of springs rocketing Sonic face first into them. The opening bit is a little tedious since Sonic can't break through blocks horizontally, so I have to sit through 3 or 4 block breaking sequences before I'm allowed to play the rest of the level. We then get this game's other new power up, the Pogo Spring, which I immediately ram into a wall and lose. I then run and jump into the first bottomless pit in the game, I think. Next time I instead break through the first column of blocks and go to the left and take an upper path across some platforms. Up here I find another new enemy, the Suno Suno. It's got a big point on it. There are actually very few enemies in this game. And I don't just mean type, of which there are only 7 different enemies in the game, but there aren't that many contained in each level themselves. After a long platform ride I keep along the top path, ramming through a jumping enemy, the Frogger, across a couple more platforms and I drop on by the signpost. Sleeping Egg Zone Act 2. There's a Pogo Spring at the beginning here so I can show it off properly. It keeps on bouncing as you stand on it. It not only increases your jump height, but you can also then jump off the spring itself for a little extra height to reach new areas. It can also break blocks from above, but once again I hit a wall and lose it. They must have thought the Pogo Spring was the big new attraction to this game since it's on all the Western box art for the Game Gear version. From there I spin dash and simply barge forward through a good chunk of the act. Then I'm jumping across some platforms above the pit and a spring takes me up to the end. Act 3 now. Once again a Pogo Spring at the beginning that I lose in seconds. This is followed by a few upward slopes leading to the third boss, the Hopping Egg Vulcan. The US manual goes with simply, bouncy boss robot, because they think you're stupid. This is harder than the last 2. As it bounces it also has these 2 cannons firing rapidly in a downward angle at me, so now I have to avoid bouncing into the bullets after hitting it. Well, it's hard until you get behind it where it can't hurt you at all, until it jumps in the air and tries to crush you, which it does when I get cocky and assume it won't be able to land in the corner, which gets me crushed. I kill it next time though. Sleeping Egg isn't as interesting to look at as Gigalopolis, but it still has more going for it than Turquoise Hill. Back to Tails for Mecha Green Hill Zone. The 8-bit games were fond of Green Hill variants. First the unimaginatively named Green Hills with an S zone from 8-bit Sonic 2, and now this. Then bringing regular Green Hill back in Sonic Blast, so we know the damage done here was eventually undone. I mainly stick to just heading right, bouncing off regular and Pogo Springs, crossing bridges until I bounce right into a mechanical coconut on top of the mechanical palm tree and lose my momentum. Even then I keep heading right, falling through a bridge, but a pair of springs has me up at the end already. I think this zone does pull off the appearance of a ruined industrial Green Hill zone as best as an 8-bit system can. I do wish the music could have been an arrangement of Green Hill's theme though. Act 2 starts with a cruel trick. After heading forward a few seconds, a Boingo bot shows up and I bounce on it. Turns out it's right below a spiked ceiling. The next spring takes me above the bridge to the top route where a few seconds of going right has me at the end even quicker than Act 1. I've done 2 full acts in Zone 4 in about a minute. Act 3 now, and the route to the boss is just a straight line left with just a bridge on the way. The boss is the Tree Crawler. This is an easy one. It crawls up this tree, firing out projectiles on the way, and slides down when it reaches the top. In its first cycle I managed to just stay bouncing on its head 4 times in a row before it drops, without moving. This makes it over in no time. For the 4th zone out of 6, Mecha Green Hill is surprisingly short and easy. I wonder if it got the short stick in development or level order was swapped at some point since I found it easier than Gigalopolis and Sleeping Egg. It still has a good look to it though at least. Sonic once again for Aqua Planet Zone Act 1. Heading forward from the beginning we get the Mecha Chick enemies. They don't do much, just hop around in groups of 3. I myself keep heading right across crumbling floors and try jumping across these platforms, but they too crumble on impact and drop me below. I land underwater, but it's a little shallow and there are still platforms I can jump out onto while avoiding the labyrinth zone spears coming from the floor. By timing jumps I can even bounce along the surface of the water, which is a cool touch. Shame it only comes into play in this one zone, the second to last in the game. Staying underwater I push open this door and cause this cute little scene of Sonic trying to run against the current before being dragged along. As the name implies, Aqua Planet is not on South Island. It's just an entirely separate planet that happens to be near South Island that we're just passing through. After going through another current and dodging more spears, a spring takes me up to the signpost. This is one of the longest acts so far, just over 3/4 of a minute. Act 2 starts with a pair of springs that take me straight to the top, followed by another spring that drops me on a platform with 6 ring monitors. Staying along the top soon has me at 100 rings and ends the level. Rocket Shoe special stage again. This time I don't piss around with the rings and just keep heading forward. I wasn't actually aiming for special stages in this playthrough so I could see most of the acts themselves. Just heading forward takes me to the Chaos Emerald with 16 seconds to spare. So Act 3 already. There's a series of springs that I managed to break out of and go through a wall, leading to the top of a level where there's a hidden invincibility monitor that I can take to the boss. These starts with a series of mecha chicks, and the invincibility runs out, also overriding the boss theme with the level's normal theme. Then the Sphere Robot drops down. It's this miniature death egg that hops around shooting bullets from its nose. It can only shoot to the left though, so you can just get behind it and wreck it. Bosses are just easy in this game. Maybe they were making up for 8-bit Sonic 2's first boss. I even managed to keep bouncing in the air for a while just before I get the last hit in and finish the zone. Aqua Planet is fine as far as water levels go, thankfully not very frustrating. One last time it's back to Tails, where so many continues are going off screen. Final zone, Electric Egg Zone. Act 1 has me getting hit by a laser right away. This level's big thing is tubes to spin through. At the fork I go up, which spits me out on the top route of the level. I still run into lasers here before it drops me down onto a row of 6 ring monitors. And below that is a row of springs and even more rings. I lose them all however when I keep going right and land on some spikes trying to jump into another tube. Instead I have to ride the platform across to another tube that spits me out into the signpost. Act 2 starts me in front of a spring that sends me into a tube that has me all over the place, but still just spits me out where I would have wound up if I'd ignored it. I keep rolling until I bump into a bomb. They're not the exact same enemy as the Starlight Zone bombs, but they function the same. I keep running across the bridge of lasers and breakable blocks, through more pipes that drop me off on a platform that lifts me up to the signpost. Electric Egg Zone Act 3, the final level. I ride a cart down a slope and jump out into a tube that takes me to 4 coin monitors. After coming out the other end, I keep moving forward to find the final boss, Eggman and his Laser Walker, or Killer Turkey Go in Japan. Eggman will fire lasers that bounce around the edges of the screen, fire a single stronger blast straight forward, and also jump and land on the spot. He's got a windshield on his walker, so you can't hit him from the front, above and back only. He's the hardest boss in the game, but in the realm of 2D Sonic final bosses, still pretty easy. Also kind of a pretty weak looking final boss, even when just compared to the 8-bit games. After 16 hits the walker is destroyed and Eggman tries to take me on with the normal Eggmobile by ramming me. But one more hit defeats him. He outruns me and jumps on a platform that floats him away. For Tails we then just get the credits as Tails runs to the left. He then plays around in the end sign. While playing through a Sonic, I do learn that the final Eggmobile ram is an instant kill, even with rings. I get him next time and without the Chaos Emeralds I get the bad ending. Sonic keeps chasing Eggman but Eggman gets away with the red Chaos Emerald and Sonic just throws a temper tantrum, jumping around. After this I do another playthrough for those emeralds. I've already explained the first special stage for the blue Chaos Emerald. I get my next 100 rings in Turquoise Hill Act 2. The second special stage is a huge climb up mid-air platforms. It's easy to fall off thanks to Sonic's traction, and falling is a huge time waste. There are monitors that freeze time for a bit though, which is nice. What isn't nice is giving me pogo springs so high up. You can go left or right from here, and left has some giant rings but also shows you the yellow emerald behind a wall teasing you. I drop back down and get it with just 4 seconds remaining. I get another 100 in Gigalopolis 1. This one gives me invincibility in front of the entrance to a maze of tubes. This special stage also has a really cool unique visual appearance that would have made a cool looking zone. After repeating the same set of pipes several times, I get dropped off in front of the green Chaos Emerald. I manage it in Act 2, but it does take a while. At the start of Special Stage 4 I can use a spring to reach some rocket shoes to get over a good chunk of the stage. The rest of it is slopes and time wasting pace to drop me onto more springs. Then there's an actual bottomless pit I had no reason to believe was there after a huge chunk of them being not bottomless, and I failed the stage. It takes me until Sleeping Egg 2 for my next chance. I make it very close to the end but this staircase of springs slows me down and I run out of time again. After many deaths and retries I get it again on Mecha Green Hill 1. This one is so close. I reach the end but the grey Chaos Emerald is just out of reach, so I have to backtrack a bit for some more rocket shoes and just grab it with 0 seconds remaining. Getting 100 in Mecha Green Hill 2 doesn't take anywhere near as long. For the 5th and final special stage there's a time stop right behind the start before I enter a massive pipe maze. There are more time stoppers hidden in the maze but no real way to know how to find the emerald, you pretty much just have to be lucky. And I am not. It takes a while for me to get my next 100 in Aqua Planet 1. I managed to get the purple emerald this time, avoiding the arsehole spring that would launch me back into the maze. That's all the special stages beat. This time when Eggman flees he drops the red Chaos Emerald and I had them all, so I can stop South Island from sinking. Not that we see that, just Sonic running inside a giant emerald over the credits. Sonic the Hedgehog Chaos feels like the least finished of the 5 8-bit Sonic platformers. It's definitely the easiest with some really short levels and a small amount of enemies, not to mention some really easy bosses. It's also the least interesting of the 5 to talk about. The first 2 have their roles as companions to the true main 16-bit counterparts. This game's sequel introduces a new character to the series, and the 5th tries to mix things up in a lot of different ways. This game just exists. But don't mistake that as me saying it's the worst. Despite all those shortcomings, it's still enjoyable and is currently the only one of the 5 I've ever sat down and played all the way through, not even counting the recordings for this video. I don't think it's the best though either, despite that. Right now I'd probably say I'd rank it 3rd, right in the middle. but don't hold me to that, it could change as I play through the rest of them and my opinions evolve. But as of now, this game is fine.